Hello, it was a rough day for my Diamondbacks, but that kind of was to be expected. Major League Baseball is getting a great matchup either way, a rematch between the Astros and the Phillies, or we get Max Scherzer and the New York Mets can beat Philly in the World Series. But anyway, the NFL kind of released a graphic showing the team's records in each individual state, which you're like, okay, so what? Who even cares, right? Like, that's such a very insignificant statistic. But the fact is, like on the NFL on Fox on their own Facebook page, if they're telling us the records by team by state, then in a way they're telling us that these rather insignificant statistics are rather significant because through a hidden lens, they are telling us what is going to happen with these games. That is the only reason why they would post such an insignificant Facebook post. So, for example, like records by states with multiple NFL teams. Ohio teams are 6-5. Now the Bengals are on the bye, but the Browns do face off against Indianapolis Colts. Teams from Ohio are currently 6-5. Now it can be 7-5 after a win over the Indianapolis Colts, right? The first road win of the season for the Cleveland Browns with the backup quarterback. It's a great story. The rapist comes back. They missed the playoffs. Typical Cleveland. Shaven Mitchell against Deshaun Watson for being a serial sexual predator. But overall, I feel safe with the Browns. Plus, I mean, outside the numbers, the Jaguars really beat up Gardner Minshew pretty good. So, his time has probably come up. Now, Pennsylvania teams are 8-3. Now, what I got from that is originally I was leaning towards the Steelers, but now as we start to realize Pennsylvania teams, when the Steelers play, can be 8-4 for the season after the Pittsburgh loss against the Rams because the Rams is Gamache 84 and Cooper Cup is back. He's been missing from the Rams. Steelers, they're going to say, had the bye week. Uh, Still a new stadium. The Chargers not be competitive. They're going to fire Brandon Staley. So, that the Rams are the team that's got to kind of make things interesting as far as SoFi hosts go. So, how does the 8-4? Originally I was it made sense for the Rams to be 3-5 because Prescott's 35 and Stafford is 35. Now, there's nothing wrong with the numbers. Those numbers are actually 100%, but are they the right ones? I mean, they can be 4-3 before facing off against the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys is 43, so there we go. Instead of being 3-4 before the Dallas game, they can be 4-3 before facing off against the Dallas Cowboys, who are coming off the game against the Chargers. Now, because Chargers just come out to 43 and the Cowboys are coming off of the game against the Chargers, then I gotta go LA Rams in this one. So Pennsylvania teams 8-4, which means that the Dolphins are going to try to send Pennsylvania teams to an 8-5 record for the season, which is very interesting because when I saw the scenario, just I know 85 was the Miami Dolphins. And there's a couple of scenarios that we got to think about as far. Go Killer Bunches! You're not Go Killer Bunches! Anyway, the Miami Dolphins is come out to 85, so the Dolphins, they're going to try to send Pennsylvania teams to 8-5. That's my theory as far as the graphic goes. It's in the community chat. I posted it earlier today. Miami Dolphins 85, not guaranteed that it happens though, but it would mean that the Dolphins are going to have the opportunity to send Pennsylvania teams to 8-5. So from that perspective, it just makes the LA game, I think, in my view, Rams. Despite the fact that the Steelers will obviously carry a lot of crowd support with them to the game. Free brand organic brand Whole Foods. It's really great tasting. 11.49 organic wine for alcohol tax and sales tax, all that good stuff kicks in. It's really good. It's really good. Um, so um, who's gonna who's gonna win the game? The Dolphins or the Eagles? I have to go with the Dolphins. Now the NFC East will be tied 5-2. Um, you know, when the Cowboys obviously beat the Rams, and after the Dolphins win, then the Eagles are at 5-2 with two straight losses, and then same old Cowboys. So if Tua is going to be an MVP, if he's going to be in the MVP race, and plus the narrative is that Miami has played no one yet, and who thought the second, third string quarterback was going to win with the Cleveland Browns last week? Well, I did think the Jets are going to win because the Jets look really good. But as far as the Eagles go, they have looked pretty sluggish this year. So this is the best offense that the Eagles have faced all this year. I think it'd be a good game. You know, if the Eagles lose, then that game against the 49ers will be a must win if they were to have any chance of getting home field. So, even if the Eagles lose, it would make things pretty spicy for Sunday Night Football. The Cowboys back on the right track, two straight wins, and the Eagles have lost two straight. Are the Eagles in trouble? Well, if the Eagles are in trouble, then I'll still go with the Eagles to beat the Cowboys. Even though I fully expect the Dallas Cowboys to win the Super Bowl, I'll go with the Eagles for the game at Philly, and I'll go with Dallas to win in December, especially if the NFL, if they want a playoff game at Jerry Road, if that's what they want, then they'll get that. So Eagles have to start out quick, get back on track. Same old Cowboys. It's November and December, that time of year. Right? That's what they're about to say, right? With the Dallas Cowboys, got to stay on script here, Dallas Cowboys. No, they're not going to win every game. They're faking Trayvon Diggs' injury because they're not supposed to be unbeatable. And Dak is supposed to shock the world. All I have to say is, I'm back in the Rangers all the way. I won't be surprised there's a third time's the charm, but Phillies, they looking pretty good by their numbers. But I got to go with Mad Max again if he does. But I really could care less about baseball. It still is an exciting finish to the postseason. Don't get me wrong. It's a great matchup, by the way. I just leading 57 with the Texas Rangers. Maybe or maybe not. 52nd season, Texas Rangers 52. 52 is the big flood number for Houston winning in 2017. Texas did win, last year, and, this would be a third time a team from Texas wins, if the Texas Rangers do so. I got nothing against Philly or anything like that. Just we can easily win the World Series a little bit later. They will win at some point, but then there's this possibility that it may be a few years or so. It may be unlucky. 13 is a big number with the Continental Congress. The delegates from 13 colonies, and the Eagles were the 13th team in the NFC East to win the Super Bowl. So is it the third time's the charm for these guys? Maybe, maybe not, but that's what has me suspicions. That has the suspicion that they may have to wait until 2026 or whatever. But as far as this year goes, there's a vengeance. There's a vengeance of showing that this is not a one-year wonder. So that's a strong narrative there. Let's see if there's anything else. The state of there's the state of Maryland. Okay, state of Maryland right now, they're 7-5. Now, it may be tricky or not, but it will come from a perspective of which game finishes first. The Washington football team, the New York Giants, or the Lions and the Ravens. Now, interesting about that is that if the Lions game finishes first, so teams from Maryland are 7-5. If the Lions game finishes first, teams from Maryland will be 7-6 because the Detroit Lions is gematria of 76. So that is if the Lions game finishes first, with the Lions winning. Now, if the Washington game finishes first for the teams from Maryland, which are currently 7-5 right now, Washington Redskins in gematria is 85. The Redskins could be a very significant value because the only championships that they won this franchise is when they were called the Redskins. So the Redskins has a big part of that franchise's history. If the Washington game ends first, then teams from Maryland are going to be 8-5. That is, if the Washington game ends first before the conclusion of the Ravens Lions game. So coming from a which game finishes first perspective, since both games are going to be in the morning slot. So as far as I see with Maryland teams, it's going to be a which game finishes first perspective. And the Jays for Caleb, all the BS with Belichick going to the Giants, all that seems all. And plus Washington with the new owner, they want to be in the playoff race, what have you. So I'll go with Washington in that game. It's kind of a rigged game last Sunday, I think, to compete with the baseball game. So I think we kind of see the typical Giants offensive line, and we see Washington come in and win that game next week. I didn't get anything with 11-7 so far for California teams because the Chargers are off. Well, okay, the Chargers are in the afternoon. Okay, maybe 11-8. 11-8. The only thing I can get out of 118 is Dallas, Texas, but uh, and uh, and 12-8, San Francisco wins. I can't say anything about that yet because I don't know what the 128 represents. Let's see there. Anything else? Anything else? Let's see. Jags. I don't know when this Facebook post came out, so maybe they didn't count the Jags game yet. Cowboys and Texans. Let's see, 7-5. Funny thing, I do have the Panthers beating the Texans next week, so I can see 7-6 and then 8-6 for the state of Texas next week. The Texans lose and the Cowboys win. When the Cowboys win, teams from Texas are going to be 8-6 because 86 is the Las Vegas number. Las Vegas is Camacho 86. It would be before facing off against Jalen Hurts. I think it's Hurts that's Camacho 86. So from a perspective of the following week, because I don't think the Texans play this week. Is that correct? Yeah, they are off. So yeah, 8-6 after the Cowboys win. I think both teams are playing at at 10 o'clock. So I really like the 8-6 for teams from Texas. So from the Las Vegas perspective for the Cowboys, I feel really great about uh, the Texans losing to the Panthers because Carolina's due for a win. Eventually, it's got to be an interesting topic. Is a team going to jump the Panthers in the draft order, or is the Panthers going to hold the leverage and they are going to trade down with the team not needing a quarterback, and somebody will be very desperate to draft Caleb Williams. So, very interested with Carolina. ACWE, what's coming? The graphic on my community post records by state. These numbers are rather insignificant to anyone who doesn't know Gematria, but what is so significant about these insignificant stats is that It's going to tell us who's going to win the games on Sunday, and I'm going to test out that theory. So all the BS numbers that they throw out, teams' records before the game, it's the Facebook group, the Facebook page called NFL on Fox. They post all these stats all the time. So, you know, it's going to be a very. I feel really great about these slate of games for these particular teams. The big games, obviously, the Lions and the Ravens, a 6-1, I think, is going to be big. Detroit Lions is 76, so 7 games, 6 wins from that perspective. So, I feel really great about the Lions, obviously, to get the victory. And then the teams from Pennsylvania, obviously, I like the Steelers to lose and probably go with the Dolphins in the uh, Sunday night football. So we'll see what happens with that. And on to the games.